The room was thick with tension. Ibrahim Traoré, the man hailed as a hero for his bold leadership, stood in the center of an ornate office, facing a man whose wealth could change the course of any nation. "Leave your position and I'll make you richer than you could ever imagine." The voice was calm, almost seductive, but Traoré could sense the pressure behind it. A brief silence hung between them before Traoré's voice broke the stillness. "I don't have a price," he said, his eyes unwavering. "But you have a secret." Introduction and setup. It was a humid evening in the heart of Burkina Faso's capital. The air was dense with the weight of summer, and the streets of Ouagadougou buzzed, with the sounds of vendors selling their goods and the distant hum of motorbikes weaving through traffic. In the midst of the noise and chaos there stood a man whose very presence commanded silence. A man whose hands had been shaped by struggle and whose resolve had been tempered by years of sacrifice. Ibrahim Traoré had been thrust into power at a time when the country was on the brink of collapse. With a country in disarray, corrupt officials pulling the strings from the shadows, and foreign powers always lingering at the borders, he had come to be a symbol of hope, integrity, and change. But every leader has a cost. Every battle demands a price. For Traoré, that price was the preservation of his soul, a soul that had yet to be broken by the betrayals and whispers in the dark. Behind the closed doors of an elegant, marble-lined office, a man named Philippe had a plan that seemed impossible to refuse. Philippe, a billionaire with connections that stretched across continents, had the world at his fingertips. He had been the man behind numerous revolutions, his fortune built on deals, manipulations, and the kind of quiet power only the wealthiest could wield. He'd heard of Traoré, the man who dared to defy the system, to fight for the people, and decided it was time to test the strength of that resolve. Traoré's position, his power, it was something he believed could be bent with the right offer. "Walk away from it all. Let me help you. I'll give you a fortune beyond your wildest dreams." But Traoré, looking out the window at the rising sun, knew he had more than wealth to consider. There was a greater cost, a price he refused to pay. Conflict or challenge introduced. Philippe's voice was calm, calculating, as he laid out the terms. Traoré could feel the weight of the offer pressing down on him. The room seemed to grow, smaller, the walls closing in. The window to the world beyond grew hazy, as if the future itself was clouded by the temptation in front of him. "Think of what you could do with that money," Philippe said, taking a step closer. "You could rebuild the country, create infrastructure, offer education, secure your legacy. You could be a legend. But it requires one thing, your loyalty." It wasn't just the money that called to Traoré. It was the vision Philippe painted, a vision where he could leave behind the daily grind of politics, where he could live a life unburdened by the weight of his decisions, a life of comfort. It was tempting. It was everything the world promised him, and yet it felt hollow. He took a deep breath, his fingers brushing against the glass of the window as if seeking an answer in the gathering clouds. But then, a thought broke through the haze. What was Philippe hiding? There was always a hidden price with men like him, men who trafficked in secrets and deceit. "Who sent you?" Traoré asked suddenly, his voice sharp. Philippe paused, taken aback by the question. For a moment his composed demeanor faltered. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Traoré's eyes narrowed. He knew then, this wasn't just an offer, it was a test, and he would not be broken. Midpoint revelation or twist. As the tension between them thickened, Philippe's facade began to crack. The million-dollar smile faded from his face, replaced by a cold expression that sent a chill down Traoré's spine. "You think I'm the only one who's trying to buy you?" Philippe asked, his voice laced with contempt. "I'm just the one who's offering you more than anyone else ever could. The truth is, Ibrahim, you're not just a leader. You're a pawn in a much larger game, one that you can't even begin to understand." The words hung in the air like smoke, dissipating only when Philippe leaned in close, his eyes locking onto Traoré's. "You've made enemies, Ibrahim. Powerful ones. They don't care about you or your country, but they want your position. and they'll stop at nothing to take it from you. I'm just the one who's giving you the chance to walk away, but if you refuse, the consequences will be irreversible. Philippe's true motives were now clear. He wasn't here to help. He was here to break Traoré's spirit, to twist his loyalty into something that could be bought and sold. Traoré stood tall, his resolve hardening. He would not bend to threats or manipulation. He knew the cost of his integrity. He had known it from the moment he decided to step into the arena. And this was the price: to stand alone, to face the weight of the world without the luxury of a safety net. Climax: emotional breakthrough. In that moment, Traoré understood what he had to do. He had been tested. His character, his resolve, his very soul. The man who stood before him was not the true enemy. The true battle was within him. Could he stand firm against the forces that sought to tear him down? Could he reject the false comfort of wealth and power that was dangled before him? "Leave my office," Traoré said, his voice calm but resolute. "And tell your masters that they will never buy me." Philippe stared at him, disbelief flickering in his eyes before he turned on his heel and stormed out of the room. For a long moment, Traoré stood by the window, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He had done it. He had faced the greatest test of all, and he had passed. His resolve was iron, his integrity unbroken. But even as the sun rose higher in the sky, he knew the battle was far from over. The forces that sought to break him would not rest. But neither would he. Resolution and quiet closure. In the weeks that followed, whispers spread throughout the corridors of power. The proposal made to Ibrahim Traoré was no secret, but his refusal had rippled through the power structures of the world. His decision had been seen as an act of defiance, a declaration that he could not be bought or manipulated. And yet, the offer had not come from Philippe alone. It was a message from the shadows, a message from those who believed they could control the fate of nations. But as Traoré sat alone in his office, the sun setting over the city, he knew that his fight was just beginning. He had won this round, but the real war was still to come. And with each passing day, his resolve would grow stronger. His mission wasn't just about power or wealth. It was about something far more precious: the soul of a nation. And he would defend it with everything he had. Call to action for YouTube. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing for more inspiring tales of hope, healing, and unexpected kindness. Hit the like button and share this with someone who needs it today. You can't put a price on integrity, and Ibrahim Traoré's story proves that.